Hey everyone, welcome to another Cabinet Vision Guide tech tip. In this episode we're going to be looking at how we can build up a composite material out of multiple slimmer materials to make up one thicker material. So the job I've got to do today is I need to build some wall units and I need to make them in about 40mm material, a bit more of a chunky look to them, and I'll put an image on screen. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build up my material through composites. So to start off with, I'm going to head into my material manager and I'm going to head into my sheet materials, and what I've got here is two materials that are going to make up my composite. So I've got a raw MDF 22mm, which is going to make up the core of the material, and then I've got some oak veneer which is going to make up either side of the core material. So to create the composite for this, what I need to do is I need to create a new material. I need to choose from the material types and choose composite, and then I need to give it a name. So I'm just going to call this one 40mm oak comp, and if I want to I can add a description, but from here all I need to do is hit finish, and then from here if I right click and go to properties and then into composite, and then what I can do is I can take any of the materials that are listed out from my material database and I can move these over to the left hand side to build up essentially my composite material. So the first one I'm going to look for is just the oak veneer. And from here what I'm going to do is just select the oak veneer in 12mm and then click the arrow up at the top to move it across to the left hand side. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to do it again and move it across a second time to stop us having to search for it. And then I'm going to search for my MDF. And for this one I want to pick out my MDF raw 22mm, which is right down the bottom, perfect, and I can move that one across as well. So now I've got all my materials across on the left hand side, what I need to do is just sort them into an order that make up the actual material. So at the moment we've got our two pieces of oak veneer 12mm and then our raw MDF. So what we actually need to do is move this one to the center. So then we should have two pieces of oak either side, just like our composite, and then our MDF raw 22mm in the center. Now there's a couple of settings in here I just want to highlight here. We've got the option for face up, which for our outer panels, if we have a single-sided material, is going to set the face up essentially on the material to be the outside of the composite. And we also have a size in here for oversizing. So when we send these through to screen to machine, there's a couple of different options we've got. One of them is to break them down into individual materials for machining. And at that point, what we can do is we can add an oversize value in here and it'll oversize the individual part, which will allow it to be trimmed. I'm going to leave these figures at 0 for a second and I'm going to return out. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a look at some of the options I've got on the material itself. And the option that I want to highlight is the pre-assembled option. Now what this does, if we have pre-assembled ticked, when we go into screen to machine center, we're going to see a complete component to be nested and processed through to the CNC. If we untick pre-assembled, what we'll see is individual materials and then one overall part, which is our composite part ready for machining. So we'll take a look at that in a second once we've added the material to an assembly. So I've now got an example job open and I'm down on room level, and as you can see I've just placed a single wall assembly against the wall that I've got, and the material that I'm using at the moment for my assembly is just I think an 18 or 19mm material, just a fairly normal size. So what I'm going to do to apply my composite material, I obviously could create a completely new material schedule, and if I'm going to be using this obviously from job to job, that's probably what I'm going to do. To make life a little bit easier, what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify the materials that I've got currently applied. So if I head into cabinet, into materials, I'm going to modify the materials for the standard upper material schedules. So if I hit modify for this job, and then what I can do under case, I can grab my new material, which should be in sheet materials, and just drag it across to apply it to this material schedule. I'm only going to change the case materials for now, just because I really want it to affect the outer case and the inner case as well. And once we have our new material schedule applied, if I head back into elevation, we should be able to see our new material thickness there. And if I head down to assembly level, you can see we've got our extremely chunky material. And if I go into reports, you'll see that we've got a finish left end, finish right end, and this has got our composite material selected. Now currently we've got our option for pre-assemble on our composite material set to no, and I'll just put that on the screen at the moment. So with this set to no, if I head into report center and I'm just going to run a report and produce an assembly sheet. That should be fine. Just to show you what this looks like with the pre-assemble option unticked. So what we should see in here is, if we take our finished left end, we have a finished left end in our finished material, our composite, which is the 40mm oak comp. And then we have another finished left end, and then we list out essentially all the materials that make up that composite. So we've got our 22mm, and we've also got another 2 finished left ends in our oak veneer 12mm. Now, if we had the option pre-assemble ticked, the only things that we'd see on our cutting list, and again, I'm just going to switch over to looking at this at the moment. The only things we'd see on this cutting list is the one composite material, because Cabinet Vision understands that this has been pre-assembled and is not broken down by material. The same thing is true if we head through to Screen to Machine Center. So if I just hit return here and head through into Screen to Machine, and with our option pre-assemble disabled, you'll see that we've got individual parts, again, that make up the composite material. And these have been set to optimize. So we've got, I'll just sort my description. We've got a finished left end in oak veneer 12mm, a finished left end in 22mm, another one in 12, and then we've got the overall component that's designed to be output to a parts machine to be drilled and machined, and that's our assembled component, our composite material. So I'm just going to optimize this to show you exactly what it looks like. And I'll pick out our finished left end parts. And you'll see what we've got is a full nested sheet for the 12mm, a full nested sheet for the 22mm, and then if I go to view mode and part view, we'll then see our assembled component ready to be machined with our operations on it. Now, with a bit of editing magic, I'm going to show you what this looks like with our pre-assemble option enabled. I'm back into Screen to Machine with my option pre-assemble enabled, and what you'll see from here is we've got a lot less parts because CV's not breaking this down into individual materials for the composite. What it's doing is it's treating the material as if it's going to be pre-assembled, hence the name of the option, and it's going to nest this out onto a full sheet as if we're going to be machining a full sheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to optimize this and just hit run and show you what that looks like. So you'll see on this one, we get the component on sheet format for nesting, but this time we've also got the operations to go with it, and this has obviously been machined out of a thicker 40mm material. Hopefully you found this episode useful. Feel free to give us a like, share and subscribe. We're also on Facebook, that's facebook.com/thecabinetvisionguy, and Instagram too, that's instagram.com/thecabinetvisionguy. Cheers!